Welcome from my home to yours. Today we're going to be looking at the shopping experience. So if you're looking to purchase a home, what all is going to go into the shopping experience that will make that a better experience for you? One of the first things that I like to look at is your needs versus your wants. See, often we get into this space where we're going into a home and there really should be a distinction between what is the absolute must-haves for this home. So for some people, the school districts are a really big piece to the puzzle. For some, when they're looking at like an office space, especially in the work from home environment that we're in now. So what are the things that are absolutely necessary? Those are the things that we're going to really concentrate on our search. And then there's going to be a list of obviously some things that are wants, like I would love to have X, Y, and Z. Inside of that want space, we're willing to compromise so that then we can get into a home that may be like 99% there, the perfect price, maybe doesn't have all of our wants list, but it's got absolutely everything that we need. We know where our limitations are, and that's how we can go into those spaces and just be able to be certain about our decisions. Now, one of the things I want to point out is that oftentimes floors and countertops tend to be on our list of needs. The reality is that I would always encourage people to put that in the want side of things, because aftermarket ability to install or fix cabinetry, countertops, and or floors, those things are an aftermarket thing that we can absolutely do that shouldn't hinder us from going, okay, if I found all the other perfect elements, then what do I do next? Well, what you do next is make sure that if that's an absolute need, then it is what it is. But if it's not, it's in that want category. Be willing to compromise in some of those spaces. Now, I talked about limitations, right? And that's one of the things that I always like to have a conversation with anybody who's jumping into anything inside of the purchasing space, a major purchase space, and that is your limitations. If you're ever going to be looking at negotiating inside of a shopping opportunity, you need to know where your limitations are. So for me, when I look at that, if you were to look at me and say, hey man, 205 is our absolute top budget, well, I'm going to look at you and just kind of press on that a little bit and say, well, if we found a home that was 210 and it had absolutely everything in your needs category, would you be willing to find another $5,000 to be able to get into that home? For some people, the answer to that question is going to be yes, I would. I would find that. Well, that's going to be an obvious space to where we know our limitations. And so if it gets to the point where I'm like, okay, so what about 210, 215, 220? When you get to that point where you're like, there's absolutely no way I could do that, well, that's where I know where my limitations are. And so when we get into this battle of trying to figure out how to purchase a home, we're going to feel more confident in our ability to negotiate and let our yes be yes and our no be no without being persuaded, because it is a highly emotional process. And so when our emotions get the best of us, we don't go, oh, let's just do it, let's just try it, let's just figure it out, man. It doesn't have to be like that. When you understand and know where your limitations are, you can truly take a step back, evaluate the situation, and know even though this house may have been perfect, that one element that was throwing us off, where our limitations were, that was a point of no return. We are absolutely not going to be able to get into this home if that's the case. And so know where your limitations are. A lot of times we set our limitations obviously pretty low so that then we can have some wiggle room. But one of the things I really like to look at is like, what is the extreme of either end of where your limitations are? Because that helps, truly helps when the emotions start to rise to be able to make a really good decision for you and obviously your family if you have one that's going to be in this process with you. When you look at that emotional side of things, I want to just be really clear. This is an emotional process. A lot of people look at this and they go, try to take all your emotions out of it. I just don't think that's true. I don't think you should take your emotions out of it. I do think there are some times, especially with your gut, if you know in your gut, you walk into a home and you're like, there's just something off about this home. Everything seems right, but there's something off about this home. Well, trust your gut. You really should. Now, a good realtor like me would push on you and say, hey, I just want to make sure that you didn't have bad pizza last night and you got gas. But most of the times that's not the case. Something about the home just didn't ring true for what you needed or what you wanted, or something just felt off. That's okay. This is an emotional process and you should be able to trust your emotions. Don't let your emotions get the best of you, but trust your emotions. One thing that helps when you get into that space of trying to figure out and obviously battling through the emotions is getting into the this or that stage. So I go into a home, I look at it, I love it. All right. I go view the next home, because you usually see about 5 or 6 homes in any kind of given day of going out and looking at homes. So I see this house, I like it. I see this next house. All right, well, this house or that house? Well, honestly, we like this house the best. It's like, all right, well then, now this is our comparison. And we go to the next house. This house or that house. Got a ranking, and these are the top 3 homes. Well, there may be a highly competitive market for that top home. You may lose that bid, and if you did, that's okay, because you loved it, but you also love these other 2 that you went in as well. They were good homes. These are the 3 that I could absolutely see myself living in, and obviously I got to start somewhere, so I'm going to start with this one, because if I got to pick, it would be this one, but I wouldn't be mad about getting into this particular home. So that's kind of a way to think about it to help you out with the process, because it can be overwhelming. Something that I always like to leave in my client's mind as we start the shopping process is you've got to get to a space where where you understand that like knowledge kind of dissipates fear. And so when we get into it, where there is this moment where we are going to be a little bit scared, a little bit fearful of what it looks like to actually contract on a home. It is a big decision. And so if you have all the knowledge, and when I look at knowledge, I'm going to say, I know what my budget is. I know where my limitations are. I know what my big needs are. I know that I'm okay with this process. If I can look at all those things and I know all this stuff, and then I look at this home and my realtors help me to understand, like, this home has this, it goes here. My mortgage company said this is what your payment would be. This is how you would, structure your escrow. If you can look at all of those elements and have the knowing, well then fear, even though it's there, doesn't really have any strength inside of your decision-making process. The fear is gone, and now knowledge is the one that helps you to be able to go, okay, this is good. It can be difficult, obviously, because I told you, don't forget your emotions, but yet also have that certainty that like my knowledge that I'm okay can dissipate the fear, so that if the emotions come in, the emotions can be a true space of emotions, to where it's like, this is how I feel, not this is how I'm fearful. Does that make sense? I hope it does, because it really helps me out a lot when I'm in these big purchasing decisions. And then when I look at the last thing that I always tell people is that if you are in a home and it's a home that's like, man, this is it, I want to think on it. The biggest piece that I give anybody in that space is you absolutely can and you absolutely should think on it. There's no challenges there. But realize that as you're thinking, somebody else could have been looking at this home and they're thinking on it as well. So if you hesitated to put a purchase contract in on a home to try and win a bid for that particular property, and it was off the market tomorrow, would you be devastated? Would you feel like you lost? And if that's the case, you've got to give it a shot. Your realtor should help you to understand all the ways in which you can back out of the contract if necessary, the ways that you can protect yourself in the contract if necessary. Don't lose the opportunity for a home because you have a bit of that fear, or there's something that's like, I just don't know. And trust your gut, trust your instincts, trust the knowledge, trust your realtor, trust all the spaces, trust yourself, and you'll make a good decision. You'll know. You will absolutely know. Owning real estate is one of the best things that you can do. And I just want to encourage you to know that like it is a simple process. All I really need is a partner to get me through this as a great real estate agent. The last thing I want to do is leave you with this idea that when you look at the contract, it is a tool. The contract is a tool. It's a negotiation tool. I want to encourage you to ask all the questions to your real estate agent to know where all of your negotiation elements are within that contract. Actually, I'm going to go through some of those things in this next video. And if I can ever help you, by all means, send me a message. I'd love to do what I can. From my house to yours.